August 3rd, 1990, on the quiet outskirts of Darlington, in a secluded house bathed in the afternoon sun, 44-year-old Ann Heron spent her day sunbathing in the garden. Hours later, she would be found inside, lying face down on her living room carpet, her throat slashed, bikini bottoms removed, with no sign of struggle. No forced entry, no witnesses, no answers. Decades of investigation have followed. Lovers, strangers, even her own husband were scrutinized, but no one has ever been convicted. Was she killed by someone she trusted, or a predator who saw an opportunity under the blazing summer sun? This is the story of a murder that has haunted Darlington for more than 30 years, and the questions that still demand answers. Mary Ann O'Neill was born on March 24, 1946, in the bustling city of Glasgow, Scotland. She would grow into a woman whose life was defined by love, family, and an enduring mystery. She married Ralph Cockburn, and together they had 3 children, Ralph Jr., Michael, and Anne Marie. Years later, life would take Anne far from her Scottish roots. While her children remained behind, she embarked on a new chapter in Darlington, England, a chapter that would end in tragedy. In 1980, on the picturesque Isle of Bute, Anne's path crossed with Peter Heron, a married man with 3 daughters, Debbie, Jackie, and Bev. Both were bound by long marriages, Anne to Ralph for 15 years, Peter to his first wife for 20, but sparks ignited a secret affair, reshaping their lives and setting the stage for a haunting mystery. By 1982, Anne and Peter had defied convention, divorcing their spouses and marrying each other. They moved into Aeolian House, an affluent yet isolated residence perched just off the busy A67 road in Darlington. Peter's 3 daughters from his first marriage lived with them. Peter thrived as a company director at GE Stiller Transport in nearby Middleton on St. George, while Anne worked part-time as a nurse and care assistant at Trees Park Village residential home. Yet beneath the surface, Anne felt the ache of separation from her children, and the quiet, shadowed rooms of Aeolian House filled her with unease. On August 3rd, 1990, the hottest day of the year, temperatures soaring toward 100 degrees, Anne stepped out into Darlington Town Center with her friend Dawn Perry, shopping for her stepdaughter Diane's 18th birthday. By lunchtime, she returned home, unaware these were her final hours. Around 1 p.m., Peter returned home from work. They shared a light lunch, a brief moment of normality in their isolated life. Shortly before 2 p.m., Peter left, and Anne decided to sunbathe in the garden, seeking solace under the relentless sun. At 2:40 p.m., Anne spoke to her friend Sheila Eagle on the phone, bright and cheerful, finalizing plans for an evening out. She mentioned she would spend the afternoon sunbathing, a fleeting moment of joy that would haunt Sheila's memory. Around 3 p.m., Peter left for a meeting at Cleveland Bridge, passing Aeolian House along the way. By 3:25 p.m., a bus passenger glimpsed Anne reclining in her bikini in the front garden, the last confirmed sighting of her alive. Meanwhile, Peter's meeting concluded between 4 and 4:30 p.m., but instead of taking the direct route home past Aeolian House, he took a circuitous path, a detour that would later draw scrutiny. At 4:15 p.m., a chilling account emerges. A driver claims to have seen Anne near her home with 2 unidentified individuals. Details are sparse, contested, and puzzling, as Anne was later found in her bikini, suggesting she never left the house. By 4:45 p.m., witnesses reported a blue car parked outside Aeolian House, a sighting that would add another layer of mystery to the events of that day. Witnesses describe a man, aged 30 to 45, suntanned, with short dark hair longer on the sides, watching the property. Moments later, a blue Leyland Sherpa van bearing a Trident logo and carrying 3 men is seen idling at the end of the driveway. Were these figures witnesses, accomplices, or something far more sinister? At approximately 5 p.m., tragedy strikes Aeolian House. Ann Heron is found in her living room, killed by a single brutal stab to the neck, likely inflicted with a sharp instrument, perhaps a Stanley knife or razor blade. The wound severs vital blood vessels, causing death by shock and blood loss. Her bikini bottoms were removed, hinting at a possible sexual motive, though no assault is confirmed. The scene is eerily calm. The radio plays softly, the house clock chimes, and the front door stands wide open. Outside, Ann's book, cigarette lighter, ashtray, and a half-empty glass remain near her sun lounger, untouched. The family, collie, Heidi, remains unharmed, a silent witness to the horror. Just after 5 p.m., a female taxi passenger spots a man running frantically toward Middleton St. George, clad in long, dark trousers. An odd sight on this scorching day. Was he a fleeing killer or a panicked witness? His identity would remain lost to time. At 5:05 p.m., a taxi driver and 2 women witness a blue car speeding out of Aeolian House driveway, overtaking their vehicle, racing across a roundabout and disappearing into the heat haze of Darlington. Questions lingered for decades. Who was driving, and what did they know? At 5:50 p.m., Peter Heron is seen leaving GE Stiller Transport, claiming he arrived home just before 6 p.m., a timeline that would be dissected endlessly. By 6 p.m., Peter returns to Aeolian House, but the familiar greeting from Ann is absent. The front door stands ominously wide. Inside, horror awaits. Ann lies face down in the living room, a pool of blood spreading beneath her, her throat slashed. Desperate, Peter checks for signs of life, then calls the police and his boss, Paul Stiller, who arrives with a colleague. Peter slumps against his car, whispering, "Please tell me I'm wrong." Paul confirms the grim reality. "I'm sorry." Police descend on Aeolian House, meticulously examining the scene. The house is pristine, with no signs of theft, ransacking, or forced entry. The grounds are undisturbed. Heidi the collie remains close by, unharmed. Peter is taken in for questioning, his life now under a microscope as the investigation begins. Within 48 hours of discovery, a post-mortem is conducted. The findings are stark. A single, deep, horizontal slash across the neck severed the carotid artery and jugular vein, causing rapid death. No defensive wounds are noted, suggesting a surprise attack or overwhelming force. Ann's bikini bottoms were removed, hinting at a sexual element, though unconfirmed. A microscopic DNA sample extracted from her throat is stored as evidence. 15 years later, it would be matched to Peter Heron. Additional samples, 36 in total, are later found near the body and elsewhere in the house, raising complex questions about intimacy, consent, and involvement. No other injuries or blunt force trauma are recorded. The absence of struggle and forced entry suggests Ann may have known or trusted her killer. A week after the murder, a bombshell emerges. Peter Heron was having a brief affair with a 32-year-old barmaid, 23 years his junior. This revelation came to light during police investigation of his detour through Croft, on Tees, and Middleton St. George. He admitted taking the longer route to glimpse the barmaid walking, her dog raising eyebrows in speculation. The affair fueled questions of jealousy or marital discord as motive, though investigators, including Detective Superintendent Keith Redman, downplayed its significance. Being a bad husband, they insisted, does not make Peter a murderer. Still, the shadow of suspicion lingered. Stepdaughter Debbie Simpson later decried police focus on Peter as a distraction from other leads. In October 1990, the case gripped the nation when BBC's Crime Watch aired a reconstruction, spotlighting the blue car, the Leyland Sherpa van with 3 men, and the mysterious running man in long trousers. Police tracked 3,500 blue car owners, considering models like Vauxhall, Astra, Cavalier, Mazda, Toyota, and Ford Orion. Yet the vehicle and its suntan driver, aged 30 to 45, remained elusive. No photo fit was produced due to vague descriptions. Presenter Nick Ross warned the killer could be anyone. Detective Superintendent Reedman pleaded for information on the blue car and its driver, a lead that tantalized but never materialized. Soon after, an unidentified woman came forward, claiming she knew the identity of Ann Heron's killer. Her voice trembling with terror, she called authorities 3 times, first to a neighborhood watch coordinator, then to a local radio station, and finally to the police after the Crime Watch reconstruction. Each time, she whispered fragments of information before the line went dead. She was never identified. In December 1990, a separate Crime Watch appeal introduced Michael Benson, an escaped prisoner who would later loom large in the investigation. Benson, 40, dark complexion, free 5'11", with a Yorkshire accent and 3 tattoos on each arm, had fled Leyhill Prison in 1989 while serving a life sentence for attempted murder and firearms offenses. Also known as Michael Johnston, he was considered potentially dangerous, working in security and driving a stolen dark blue metallic Ford Orion. His violent past and penchant for knives made him a chilling figure, resurfacing years later as a possible suspect. As 1991 ended, despite Crime Watch appeals and press conferences, the investigation stalled. Leads dried up, and the case grew cold, leaving Ann's family in agonizing limbo. Between late 1992 and early 1993, a haunting lead emerged from Newton Aycliffe Card Market. A 64-year-old worker, Sylvia, reported a man's chilling confession. He claimed responsibility for Ann's murder, boasting he would flee to Australia and never be caught. Police found no corroborating evidence, and the confessor vanished, leaving only taunting echoes in an unresolved case. In 1992, Peter Heron remarried Feta Buddy, a 49-year-old widow and former receptionist for one of G.E. Stiller's clients. Yet the shadow of suspicion lingered. 2 uniformed officers attended the wedding, a stark reminder of ongoing surveillance. Though no new charges were brought, authorities maintained a watchful eye, unconvinced of his innocence. In October 1994, 3 anonymous letters arrived, sent to Peter, Durham Police, and the Northern Echo, each claiming responsibility for Ann's murder. The letters reveled in the act with disturbing detail, but despite exhaustive efforts, the sender was never identified, adding a cruel twist to an already baffling case. In April 1997, police questioned Philip Hann, a 29-year-old serving a life sentence for rape, who had been transferred from Wakefield Prison to Darlington. He was quickly ruled out, with no evidence linking him to the murder. On November 26, 1999, Michael Benson, the fugitive from the 1990 Crime Watch appeal, was captured in Tyningham, East Lothian, Scotland. His violent past and possession of a blue Ford Orion later made him a focal point in the investigation, though he remained free until his death in 2011. By early 2005, Durham Police re-examined over 1,500 crime scene items with advanced forensic technology. A speck of DNA preserved from Ann's throat for 15 years yielded a genetic fingerprint, Peter Heron's. This, along with other samples linked to sexual activity, reignited suspicion. On November 9, 2005, 6 officers stormed Peter Heron's home in Motherwell, North Lanarkshire, arresting him for Ann's murder. At Spennymoor Police Station, Peter steadfastly maintained his innocence, refusing a solicitor. The following evening, he was formally charged and brought before Newton Aycliffe magistrates, who remanded him in custody for 1 week. Held at Holme House Prison, Peter appeared at Teesside Crown Court on November 17th for a bail application. The judge granted bail, noting that if he had wanted to abscond, he would have done so 15 years earlier. Strict conditions were imposed, including daily police reporting. By February 2006, after 12 weeks on police bail, Peter learned through a journalist that the charges were dropped. The Crown Prosecution Service had abruptly halted proceedings, deeming the case untenable after fresh expert review of the forensic material. Specialists concluded that the DNA evidence could plausibly result from consensual marital relations, lacking corroboration from other traces, witnesses, or signs of struggle, and therefore insufficient for conviction. In 2007, another round of forensic testing targeting blood, fibers, and biological material from the scene again yielded no breakthroughs, leaving investigators grasping at shadows. In 2016, criminologist Jen Jarvie, an award-winning lecturer and member of the Association of British Investigators, reached out to Debbie Simpson via Facebook, offering to investigate Ann's murder pro bono. Reviewing the 2005 evidence, Jarvie found Peter's alibi airtight. He wore the same beige trousers and white shirt all day, inconsistent with committing a bloody murder, and drove a white Mercedes, not a blue car. With Peter Heron steadfast in his innocence, criminologist Jen Jarvie turns her focus elsewhere. Her victimology and behavioral analysis suggest a different suspect entirely. In 2020, Jen Jarvie steps into the public spotlight, convinced that Michael Benson holds the key to solving Ann Heron's murder. She criticizes Durham police for nearest and dearest bias, focusing on Peter while overlooking a far more sinister figure. Michael Benson, a career criminal, had absconded from Lay Hill Prison in May 1989, fleeing a life sentence for violent crimes including attempted murder, robbery with a carving knife, and grievous bodily harm with a shotgun. His profile chillingly aligns with the mysterious blue car driver seen near Aeolian House on August 3, 1990. A man in his 40s, suntanned and dark-complexioned. Benson's connection deepens with his possession of a dark blue metallic Ford Orion, stolen from his recently married wife, Ruth Bennett, in May 1990. This vehicle matches eyewitness accounts of the car speeding from Aeolian House, a haunting detail that refuses to fade. On July 18, 1990, just 2 weeks before Ann's murder, a violent incident near Prebends Bridge in Durham involved a man attacking a woman with a knife, demanding money. The attacker, 35, 5'9", stocky, with dark brown, brushed black hair and a sun-tanned complexion, bears striking resemblance to Benson. His movements and proximity add weight to Jarvie's theory. Operating with bases in Leeds just an hour from Darlington, Benson was a transient figure, potentially linked to 3 unsolved murders in Yorkshire and Southampton between 1991 and 1998. Jarvie hypothesizes that after leaving his wife in Southampton, he prowled north in his stolen blue Ford Orion, unknown to police during the 30-year investigation. She insists that Benson's violent history, car, and circumstantial links make him more of a person of interest than Peter ever was. In May 2022, Channel 5 aired a documentary, The Mysterious Murder of Ann Heron, revisiting the 32-year-old unsolved crime. The spotlight falls on Peter Heron, who remains a suspect in the eyes of Durham police. Standing resolute, Peter proclaims his innocence, pleading for the true killer to be brought to justice. Criminologist Jen Jarvie takes center stage, boldly asserting that police should focus on Michael Benson, a violent fugitive whose dark past aligns chillingly with the crime. She unveils a sworn statement from an unnamed prisoner who served time with Benson after his 1999 re-arrest. The prisoner claimed Benson recounted a botched robbery in Darlington, where he killed a lone woman in her home, a chilling parallel to Ann's murder, with a single fatal throat wound inflicted with a sharp blade. The documentary exposes tensions behind the investigation. Durham Constabulary referred itself to the Independent Office for Police Conduct after complaints from Ann's family, who accused police of mishandling the case and fixating on Peter while overlooking critical leads. Yet Durham police firmly eliminated Benson as a suspect, declaring he was likely abroad at the time. Their dismissal, however, did little to quell public suspicion that a dangerous predator may have slipped through their grasp. In a 33rd anniversary appeal, Ann's son, Ralph Cockburn, a former detective, made a heartfelt plea for information, haunted that his mother's murder remained unsolved. On the 35th anniversary, August 3, 2025, Durham Police, led by Detective Superintendent Craig Rudd, launched a fresh appeal, leveraging modern forensic advances and urging witnesses to come forward, insisting it is never too late. From the moment Ann Heron's body was discovered, her husband Peter stood at the center of suspicion. A single, brutal throat wound, removed bikini bottoms, and no signs of force. De-entry suggested someone she trusted. Peter's movements that day, including a detour after his meeting near Cleveland Bridge, fueled the fire of doubt. Investigators focused on a critical window between roughly 4:20 and 5:50 p.m., where Peter's timeline appeared murky. Initially, he offered vague explanations for his detour. A week later, he admitted a secret affair with a 32-year-old barmaid at Dinsdale Spa. His detour through Croft-on-Tees and Middleton St. George was to glimpse his mistress, a revelation that painted a picture of marital tension and a possible motive. The discovery of Peter Heron's DNA, 36 semen samples throughout the house, including a minuscule sample in Ann's throat, intensified suspicion. Yet forensic experts found these consistent with their intimate relationship, not proof of guilt. The case against Peter seemed compelling. His proximity to Ann, no signs of forced entry suggesting a trusting killer, the unexplained detour and statistical likelihood of partner involvement in such murders. But cracks appeared. Peter's alibi, corroborated by colleagues at GE Stiller Transport, placed him at work during the critical hours. Eyewitness reports of a blue car and a suntan driver aged 30-45 didn't match. Peter, 55, with gray hair, drove a white Mercedes, not the Vauxhall or Ford Orion described. He wore the same beige trousers and white shirt all day, untouched by the blood of a violent murder. The blue car speeding from Aeolian House further contradicted his presence. Speculation swirled that Peter acted impulsively or even hired a killer, but no evidence supported these claims. His 2005 arrest, driven by the DNA evidence, crumbled by February 2006 when charges were dropped for lack of conclusive proof. Later, forensic advances failed to tie him to the crime, leaving Peter a suspect in name only, haunted by questions yet unshackled by defies. Night of answers. Michael Benson emerges as a chilling alternative suspect. Private investigator and criminologist Jen Jarvie unearthed a violent career criminal who escaped prison in 1989 and died in 2011. Jarvie's theory hinges on a web of circumstantial but gripping connections, painting Benson as a predator whose shadow looms over Aeolian House. His rap sheet reads like a nightmare: attempted murder, armed robbery, burglary with a knife, violent assaults often involving knives or firearms, mirroring the opportunistic nature of Ann's murder. Shortly after escaping Lye Hill Prison, Benson married a woman in Southampton, only to abandon her and steal her dark blue metallic Ford Orion, a vehicle eerily similar to the blue car multiple witnesses saw near Aeolian House on August 3, 1990. Jarvie points to a chilling precursor. Just 2 weeks before the murder, a man attacked a woman near Prebends Bridge in Durham, wielding a knife and fleeing with her money. The description closely matches Benson. Jarvie's case darkens further with a sworn statement from a Home House prison inmate, claiming Benson confessed to killing a lone woman in a Darlington burglary. Benson's ex-wife, Ruth Bennett, reportedly recognized his handwriting in anonymous letters sent in 1994, claiming responsibility for the murder. Jarvie argues Benson's proximity to Leeds, an hour from Darlington, and potential links to 3 unsolved murders in Yorkshire and Southampton between 1991 and 1998 paint him as a transient predator seeking victims. Yet Durham Constabulary pushed back, asserting they had tested Benson's family DNA against crime scene evidence, finding no match and insisting he was likely abroad, declaring him not and never has been a suspect. Another theory points to Christopher Halliwell. Crime authors and former investigators speculate that the convicted double killer may be linked to Ann's murder. Halliwell, responsible for murders in 2003 and 2011, had intimate knowledge of rural roads as a long-distance taxi driver and a history of preying on women in isolated settings, eerily similar to Ann's vulnerability at Aeolian House. Though no confirmed evidence places him there on August 3, 1990, his nomadic lifestyle and predatory history make him a plausible, if unproven, person of interest. The unknown blue car driver remains another theory, a sexually motivated thrill killer or opportunist. Sightings of the suntanned man aged 30-45, the contested 4:15 p.m. report of Ann driving with 2 strangers, and a distinctive object suggest a possible abduction or confrontation gone deadly. The running man, a man seen sprinting toward Middleton St. George in long trousers, could be the fleeing killer or a terrified witness. Despite extensive appeals, he remains untraced, a ghost in the case's narrative. The anonymous letter confessor theory also lingers. Between 1992 and 1993, a man at Newton Aycliffe Card Market boasted of killing Ann, claiming he would soon flee to Australia. In 1994, anonymous letters taunted Peter, possibly from the same individual, reveling in evading justice. For 35 years, Ann Heron's murder has defied resolution, a wound that festers for her family and investigators. Her life, vibrant and full of love, was stolen in a brutal instant, leaving a trail of clues, blue cars, anonymous letters, and fleeting witnesses that led nowhere. As forensic advances offer hope and appeals persist, the truth remains elusive. Anne's memory endures in the hearts of her children and stepdaughters, who fight tirelessly for justice. Will the shadows of Aeolian House ever reveal their secrets? Or will Ann Heron's killer remain a phantom, lost to time?